All right, so I think some people will still be trickling in, but we'll get started. I'll just do a really brief introduction. We're super excited to have Dario join us today. I met Dario 5 months ago now when I was in Italy for Climate Farm School's course at Spinocchia and then touring around a bit. And Dario works at Davines and is the head of EROC in Europe, which is Europe's association with the Rodale Institute's regenerative organic certification. And I was just really blown away by the project that they have there and the research they're doing. It's a really beautiful um, spot and just super cool to see, yeah, see the support from Davines actually for regenerative agriculture and also see the work that you all are doing with farmers. So Dario was kind enough to join us today and extend his very long day of work and stay on a little bit later for us. It's evening there and early morning for me. So I'll let Dario introduce himself, his background, and his work a bit more, and just talk about their journey and what they're doing. If you all have questions, we'll have time at the end, and I can help to moderate that. But also feel free to pop questions in the chat during the talk. But then, yeah, come off mute and feel free to ask him directly. And I would love if anybody is in a position to turn their camera on. It's always nicer for the speaker when you can see some faces, but understand that might not always be possible. So yeah, thank you again, Dario, for joining us, and I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Ryan, for the invitation. Very good. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to try to share my screen. Let me see.
You should be able to. I will make sure you're.
Yeah. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to put in presentation mode. So it should be working. Is that okay?
That looks great.
All right. So, well, thank you very much again. My name is Dario Fornara. I'm the research director of EROC, European Regenerative Organic Center, that we established here in Parma, Italy. It's a new research, education, and dissemination center. But before I get to talk about EROC, I didn't know about the general knowledge of the audience. So I'm going to go through quickly and creating like a context. But the main, I'd say, subject here is using regenerative organic agriculture to search for active organic ingredients, which can be used in the cosmetics industry. So that's it. To get organic active ingredients, which are good for our health too, you need to start from healthy soils. I'm a soil biogeochemist, but I'm working for a cosmetics company. So this is quite rare, I think. I used to work in the UK as I did teach at the university ecology courses, and then I worked for the scientific branch, the Department of Agriculture in the UK. And then I moved to Italy because I saw this opportunity, an ambitious project between a cosmetics company in partnership with the Rodale Institute in the United States, which I'm sure you know. They've been doing regenerative organic agriculture for probably almost 80 years now. So the Davines Group is a family-owned company. It started in 1983, when the parents, the founders, started this little business in Parma, and year after year, it became a multinational company, still owned by the same family, with Davide and Stefania Bollati. The number of people working in here has increased exponentially over the last 20 years. The Davines Group has got two brands. One is Davines, which is hair care, and the other one is Comfort Zone, which is skin care. Just yesterday, my colleagues from sustainability came up with few numbers, and a new sustainability report will be published soon. But I just want to put together a few numbers to show you. So on the left, it's a picture of the Davines village, which is the headquarters of the Davines Group in Parma, which Ryan visited a few months ago. So let's say, to give you a few numbers, 41 years in 2024, when they started, the two brands, Davines and Comfort Zone, 9 offices worldwide. There is one in New York, for example, 95 countries where we do business with. And last year, we ended up with a revenue of almost 300 million euros. We passed the 1,000, sorry, I went too fast. 1,000 in terms of number of people, colleagues working for Davines Group from different nationalities. We've got researchers because we do research, put together new formulas. The Davines Group is a B Corp since 2016. So it's a big corporation. We want to do business, but we want to also pay attention to have a positive effect on the environment, on society, transparency. And it has been a big corp since 2016. 866 tons of plastic waste removed. This is through collaborations. And also because of EROC and because of what I told you a few minutes ago, we have already included 7 organic ingredients from regenerative organic agriculture into our products. So it's a good company, it's a great company, doing business, but also really paying attention to the environment. So that's the Davines Group in a nutshell. Why we have created EROC, and again, well, and I know you know probably better than me, but there are many issues. I just got this, let's say, screenshot this morning from, maybe you know it, there is this Climate Trace website. It's a non-profit. It's promoted by Al Gore, your ex-president, and it's a coalition of different universities. Oh, this is just to show you that, you know, there are so many data, but I just got this one showing that in 2024, agriculture was responsible for almost 16 billion tons of CO2 equivalent emissions. So I got this screenshot over the United States because you guys are mostly there at the moment, but you can see the map of the world. And if you look at the last few years, every year, more or less, this is the contribution of global greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture, mainly intensive agriculture, which is about 13% of all greenhouse gas emissions, not including in this figure. It doesn't include forestry or land use changes, just agriculture. So agriculture does have an impact on climate change, and it is actually promoting it together with many other activities, human activities. So this is one issue. So we need to do something about this. What we know, it's, you know, 1/3 of all the soils around the world has been considered unhealthy. This is a FAO report a few years ago, and this percentage is going to increase in the next 10, 20 years if we don't do anything about this. And then again, this is another number. Since we started doing agriculture 10,000 years ago across different regions worldwide, but mostly in the last 100 years, we lost 140 billion tons of carbon from the soil, mainly from soil degradation, erosion, and so on. This other one, agriculture alone, is estimated to, let's say, threaten 86% of animal plant species already at risk of extinction. So I'm talking about a global food system, where we do change land use, where we do use intensive agriculture, soil disturbance, synthetic chemicals, and so on. All these has led us to this point on the environment. So there is another very good reason why we should be paying attention to how we do agriculture, and it's about the One Health issue. We are affected by the environment around us. So most likely, I mean, if you have healthy soils, most likely you're going to have healthy plants, which you can then use for food, fibers, or active organic ingredients for cosmetics. So these two diagrams, just to show you, the one on the left, this link between good soil and increased well-being for humans. On the other side is the recognition. This is already probably a few years old, but it is the recognition that there is a link between soil biodiversity, and I mean soil microbiomes, between soils, plants, and human beings. In this case, it's mostly gut related. It's the microbiome that there is in our guts, but it does affect our functioning, but it could also affect our skin ecosystem or cuticle, ecosystem. So it's basically, we are what we eat, we are what we use in terms of organic ingredients. So the other message from the diagram on the right is that there is a huge biodiversity in soils, and the evidence is that the more diverse is a soil ecosystem, the better it's functioning. So it's more resilient. It's providing all those ecosystem services that we need. So there is an equilibrium. There is an equilibrium among many different microbial groups and communities, which we lose if we disturb and use synthetic chemicals to take care of the crops and so on. And in fact, recently there is an increasing number of publications, scientific studies, which show clear relationships between, in this case, exposure to the use of pesticides and different kinds of cancer, from prostate to colon cancer. And there are more actually papers coming out making this relationship. So because of all this, and I've got this, like stylized kind of a diagram from Kiss the Ground. I'm sure you watched the movie a few years ago. There was another one which followed up its Common Ground, was 2 years ago or last year probably. But this is just to show you, a comparison between the very two different systems. On one side, intensive agriculture, not really seeing the soil as a living thing, but as a substrate where to grow crops, and treated with all kind of chemicals, and but then with all the negative consequences that we could get by doing that. And on the other side, a system where actually we tend to increase biodiversity, we pay attention on plant roots, we don't disturb the soil that much, maybe we integrate animals, and so on. So this is more what, let's say, regenerative organic agriculture principles are suggesting to do. And there are these ones. So I'm sure you know already that there is no one definition of regenerative organic agriculture. Let's say there is a series of principles, and if you use them, or most of them, or some of them, depending on where you are and what you grow, then the soil tends to regenerate, which basically means it does accumulate soil organic matter year after year, and then is improving is, let's say, biogeochemistry. So these practices include minimum soil disturbance, minimum tillage, doing the crop rotations, avoid as much as you can pesticides, herbicides, synthetic fertilizers, or actually avoid them totally. Using cover crops, it's a good way to protect the soil, put some carbon back into the soil, increasing soil health. Organic nutrient fertilization is another one, animal manure, compost, rotational grazing if you have animals. And if you have the space and possibility to do that, rotate them, move them around. And again, is nature, which is suggesting to do that. If you look at reindeer, huge populations of reindeer in the northern countries in Alaska, or the big herds of grazing herbivores in the Serengeti in Eastern Africa. So they tend to move around, and by doing that, they eat the plants, stimulate growth, release pee and poo, which are important nutrients for plants. And then, you can try to increase plant species diversity, crop diversity, growing plants near each other, using principles associated with intercropping, and so on. So this is what regenerative organic agriculture has been suggesting to do. It works. You need to pay attention and learn more and more about your system. So given all these, let's say, introduction, we do have a problem with intensive agriculture, a problem that actually it tends to have lots of negative consequences for the environment, but also for our health as a human beings, the well-being. So we need to do something. And I think that's why, even before I came to work in Davines, that's why the Davines Group started to get in touch with the Rodale Institute a few years ago, because we had this piece of land that you see in the picture in the center. These are about 42 acres of land, which we bought, and not sure what to do. And then talking to the Rodale Institute, we started planning, having this idea to create a first European Regenerative Organic Center in Parma, which is a unique in Italy, but also in Europe, being a center also associated with the Rodale Institute outside the United States. So this is a cosmetics company, the Davines Group, investing in the creation of research, education, and dissemination center, with the idea, and I'll go through now, but the idea to create an open air lab, be a reference point for the regenerative organic movement, starting from Italy. Okay, so what do we do in EROC? EROC, we see EROC as a, as I said, research, education, dissemination center to promote or contributing to the promotion of the regenerative organic movement in Europe. We see it as an open air lab, and a soil health lighthouse, as we said, and also beacon for the regenerative organic movement. Ryan visited that a few months ago. Every year we do have more than 4,000 people visiting EROC in different seasons, different groups, and a variety of people, audience, from universities to high schools, people interested, lots of hairdressers and estheticians, because we are a cosmetics company. And I can tell you they are very much interested. They are paying attention to, they are sensitive to these topics, sustainability, soil quality, plant quality, health, but also human being health. So it has been great. Objective one, it's challenging in the sense that actually, we started from scratch and we need to create a research center. So we need to build, create the roads, the fences, the irrigation system, the edges to create diversity, the scientific experiment. So in the picture you see in front of you, it's this is the experiment one. I'll talk more about this later, but you can see the different experimental plots where we do compare regenerative organic practices to conventional practices, which are more like associated with intensive agriculture. So objective one is to create the center. It's still a baby, it's only 3 years old, so we've been working on it. But you see, from here to here, you can see more experiments that have been added. So now we have 3, let's say, large experiments, and then we have land around them, which we want to use to scale up what we learn from these plot scale experiments, because one of the objectives is to show and perhaps convince farmers that this kind of approach can be done at the field scale. Thinking about how to do it, which is a combination of regenerative organic practices, but also the use of mechanization, because we do need mechanization, and maybe also actually technology, sensors, drones, precision agriculture, how we can go in this direction without using synthetic chemicals. Okay, so that's another photo. Experiments, and further away you can see.
Thanks.
You can see, okay. You can see the Davines village nearby, so where the headquarters of the Davines Group is. Objective 2 is to, look for active organic ingredients that we want to include in our formulation, in the formulations of cosmetics products. So we grow plants, plant species which could be of interest to us. Well, these are just few examples. So the lemon balm, the red clover, the yarrow, the marigold, the 2 different varieties of chamomile, but many more that we've been growing in relation to the ingredients or ingredient that we need for a specific line of products. So EROC per se is not, we don't see it as a supply chain of products for Davines for different reasons, but maybe first is that maybe we don't have the space enough to produce all the volumes that we need, but also because we want to grow plants, the plants that we want the ingredients from, they have to grow under the right climate and soil conditions. So let's say if we need a plant which grows well in the south of Italy, then we look for a farmer, and we've been looking and found farmers across Sicily, Apulia, south of Italy, producing plants like the prickly pear, oranges, the myrtle, which means that EROC, it's based in Parma. We do produce at least one ingredient, one plant species that we do use in one specific line of products every year, because we want to keep the link between soil health, plant health, and human health, showing what we have in EROC. So we use the yarrow, we use the marigold, we're going to use other species. But other than that, EROC is creating a network. It's this one. Creating a network with farmers across Italy and outside Italy. which are already organic. So these farmers are already organic. We approach them and we ask them whether they could provide the biomass to extract the ingredient that we need. If they say yes, we also ask them to move from organic to regenerative organic certified. So at the moment with the ROA, actually based which is based in California, Regenerative Organic Alliance, we got this agreement to extend or to bring the regenerative organic certification in Italy to our farmers, because we see ROC as comprehensive certification, which is based on 3 pillars. Soil health, it's very important. Animal welfare is also very important, and social fairness, the workers. So with the ROA and other partners now, we are creating sort of like coalition to support and contribute to the regenerative organic movement in Italy and in Europe. So this is just to give you an idea. Probably the map on the left has been already updated, but the little red dots are farmers in Italy, across Italy, which we approached, and we help them to get the ROC certification. So there are farmers across Italy, and actually as a Davines Group, we paid for the certification fees. We know farmers struggle. It's not easy for them to find a market. So what a cosmetics company could do, and is doing in this case, it's basically offering a small parallel market to these farmers. I mean, they do produce food, fibers for the agri-food industry or the textile industry. But in this way, they can also provide biomass and ingredients for a cosmetics company. It's not going to change their lives, but it's creating a small parallel market, and that's great. From my side, being research director of EROC, I'm happy that if one ingredient is ends up in shampoo product or in cream, then we say it means that that ingredient has been produced by a farmer living in the south of Italy who has been managing few acres or many acres in a regenerative organic way. So that's it's what I'm looking for. On the right, there is a list of 19 ROC certified ingredients. Ingredients, we mean we start from the plant, and then from each of these plants, then we get the ingredient we need. Not all of them have been included in products, but this is a start. ROC certifying them and then using them in new lines of products in the next few years. Okay, objective 4 is to do the research. Basically, I'm a soil scientist, and with my team of where we are 4 between soil scientists, agronomists, we want to do research, and that's why we have been creating experiments, also in collaboration with other companies and universities. And I just want to show you this briefly. These are all preliminary results, but what we do, it looks like it makes sense, and you see already positive effects of regenerative organic agriculture on key indicators. If we look at the soil microbiome, so looking at the arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, the abundance of these fungi, it's higher in the regenerative organic soils. So you don't even need to do any statistics. It's very clear. And this is only after 2 years. The carbon is also been accumulating in those plots. It's quite early to say because it takes time. And probably we see this effect partly because of the addition of animal manures, which do contain carbon, for example. But that's good news anyway, because we are adding more carbon to the soil. On the right side, the number of earthworms. So this is a scale strange. I didn't have the time to change the graph. I wanted to show them per square meter, but if we want to scale it up to 1 hectare, you might find more than 1 million earthworms in the regenerative organic soils compared to few in the conventional managed soils, where we do use synthetic chemicals, where we do disturb the soil, where we don't do cover crops. So it's incredible how the soil can actually respond in only a few years, actually after 2 years in this case. Okay, I mean, these results from a, let's say, plot scale experiment, as the one I show you in the picture, are, let's say, kind of confirmed by a literature review study that we published a few months ago, where we looked globally. We were searching for studies which compared regenerative organic agriculture and conventional agriculture, measuring different soil parameters. We didn't find many. We started from 300 and we ended up in 24, maybe 25, 26 studies, which could be used for this review, and which tells us that much more work should be done to compare these two different approaches, conventional and regenerative organic. But if you look at the graph on the like circular kind of bar plot on the right, and if we look at the ecosystem services associated with regenerative organic agriculture, we found that regenerative organic agriculture had positive effects on most of ecosystem services provided by these soils, from climate regulation to water cycling and so on. The only one we found negative, it's productivity, so yields. And strange enough, we come up with a figure which is, let's say, 20% less production in regenerative organic soils or crops compared to conventional. But then if you look into the detail, this is not maybe the reality, mainly because it depends where you are and what you grow. If you grow potatoes, and if you do a study which is lasting 2 or 3 years, it's probably, you can expect that the conventional potatoes receiving lots of nutrients might produce more than regenerative organic, which is actually not receiving that amount of nutrients in that form in the short term. So that's one problem. Studies are short term, and maybe they compare one crop only. And then it depends on the climate, on the soil type. I think it's almost impossible, or there are only few studies around the world where you have, you know, like field scale or farm scale studies, which really compare regenerative organic and conventional for many years, at least 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. So I'm saying that because, you know, skepticals might use it, or people with interest may say, oh, okay, you see, you don't produce enough food. But this is not the right question to ask here, and we need to do more research. But this is what we found, you know, positive effects on 64% of all the studies, case studies, soil organic carbon increasing, and also the microbial biomass carbon increasing, plus 133%, which is telling us, you know, the story. So you increase microbial biomass, and that's the start of regenerating the soil. So this is dividing not ecosystem services, but looking at parameters from soil organic carbon, labile carbon, microbial biomass, different parameters, nutrients in the soil. And we found this positive effect on most of them in the regenerative organic agriculture managed soils. What we found also, because this is what actually then we need to start looking at, and well, few people around the world have already done it or started to do this, because if the soil quality is changing and improving, then also the nutrient density of the plants. I mean, my expectation is that is also going to change, and let's say to change, and maybe in a positive way. And this graph has been produced using the data from probably only 2 or 3 studies, but it shows increases in different components, secondary metabolites, primary nutrients. So again, this is promising, and it does deserve more research, and all across different regions around the world. The final objective is, well, education. Education, organizing courses, workshops. We're going to have one important workshop next week with different stakeholders, conferences, national, international, TED Talk a few years, two years ago. So to allow and make EROC becoming a reference point in Italy in relation to regenerative organic agriculture, again funded by a cosmetics company. This is one of the last slides, probably. What we do as Davines Group, we also promote now every year. We started last year a competition. It's called the Good Farmer Award. We did that in Italy. The 2 young people with this piece of paper, the certificate, are Filippo and Marta. So they won this competition in Italy. And Clarenda, on the other side, she won the first edition of the Good Farmer Award in the United States. And that was the ceremony, which was in New York a few months ago. I think it was the 22nd of April for the Earth Day. But just to tell you that the Davines Group is also investing money. It's 10,000 euros for each of these farmers, young farmers, providing evidence that they do regenerative organic agriculture. So it has been a great initiative. And this year, actually, in Italy, we got so many applications, which means that there is an incredible network of farmers which need help, actually, to keep going in the right direction. My last slide, just to remind you, so the Davines Group it is a cosmetics company, is doing business, but it's paying attention to the world around, environment, society, and it's got these 3 pillars, which are beauty, ethics, and sustainability. So I'm excited about this project, and we'll keep going and see how it goes. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dario. It's really cool to hear about all the work that you're doing. I have a few questions. I also just want to say you showed pictures of these research plots. It is so cool to go there and see these side-by-side research plots of conventional versus regenerative. I've never really seen it that well organized in one space. So that was like a special experience for me. I had a specific question on that, which you showed those graphs showing the 2-year impacts of regenerative versus conventional. How do you decide what conventional practices you're going to use? Like, do you mimic what other farms are using, or do you have somebody advising you? How do you choose that?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, Ryan. Before we started, we just we're talking to the Rodale Institute, but the key point was to do what most of the farmers in northern Italy would do based on climate and the soil time. So the main crops that we have here are cereals, wheat, corn, oats a bit. In Parma, lots of tomatoes, sunflowers, and we know how they do it. So they use synthetic chemicals. They do disturb the soil quite a lot in the autumn, so plowing and also deeply. So they don't use cover crops really. They leave the brown fields across the winter. So in the experimental plots that we treated as conventional, we use these techniques, what most farmers would do to grow cereals and tomatoes. In some cases, actually, we never did a monoculture. Even in the conventional, we keep two crops, maybe wheat one year and corn the following year, just not to have only a monoculture, because it sounded too bad for us. So that's a conventional. And the regenerative organic sisters of these treatments are those with crop rotations, the cover cropping, avoiding any synthetic chemicals, animal manure. So rotation, it means then you don't have the wheat, you have the wheat maybe every 3 or 4 years compared to the conventional. And that's why we need longer rotation in the experiments. They need to run for a few years in order to have a better idea. But this year, for the first time, we had the wheat growing in the conventional plot, but also came back in the regenerative plots after year 1. So we are in year 4 now. And we harvested this wheat, and we are going to look at many different nutrients, carotenoids, secondary metabolites, just to see whether there is any changes in between conventional and regenerative organic.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions from the group? Feel free to just come off mute, or you could raise your hand.
Hi, Dario. I have a question as well about the choice of crops that you're growing and measuring in your research. I'm curious if it, like how much, basically some crops that might not be grown in the place that they want to grow plays into your thought process and research. Like, are you trying to grow different varieties of wheat or grains that are better suited to either the specific climate region that you're in or regenerative organic growing practices versus conventional varieties that are not necessarily bred for a specific location, but more just for yield? Like, how do you, because it feels like the yield piece is such a bad metric, but it's the one that people sort of care about the most. And I feel like ways to get, like, break out of that mentality around length of time that you're studying and what crops you're even growing in an area really matters. So yeah, I'm curious how you think about that when you're doing research and you're also trying to measure something that people are used to measuring and understanding as an important metric like yield.
Yeah, no, that's another very good point. And we haven't got to that stage yet. Let's say we use, for example, like a common variety of wheat. We got, for the regenerative organic plots, we've got the seeds from, let's say, organic seeds, and for the conventional, the normal seeds, but of the same wheat variety. So basically, we're looking at how the same variety it's behaving, it's growing based on different soil management. So we haven't got to the point where we are testing what varieties might respond better to regenerative organic compared to conventional. There is a lot of research to be done in that area. I know in Italy there are universities growing old varieties or breeding different varieties to look for yields, but also resistance to pathogens. It would be very interesting to do a study where we compare different varieties in regenerative and conventional, and then looking at yields. And in our plots, honestly, we don't see much differences in yields at the moment between regenerative and conventional. But we're planning to do more at the field scale. And then we've been learning, how to deal with the weeds. I think it's one of the major problems we're dealing with. So going in, mechanize, getting rid of them, or maybe changing the time of seeding. We did seed plants in the spring, and it didn't work because it was too wet initially and then too hot. And then the soil created a crust, and then the weeds take over, basically. They took over. So now we are planting different varieties of wheat now. So they will be growing through the winter. They will probably be taller than the weeds in the spring and early summer. So it's about also find the right combination and planning the right crop rotations, and to convince the farmers find the right mechanization, the solution that could take them to that point without using chemicals, or as less as possible.
Thank you.
We've got a question from Eleanor. Eleanor, you can come off mute.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Dario, for joining us. I have a question regarding kind of regenerative organic versus regenerative claims that a lot of companies are making nowadays. I think, I just attended New York Climate Week and attended a lot of panels about, I think regenerative is a big buzzword recently. And I've seen and worked with a lot of like big corporates on regenerative strategies, and they're still using harmful chemicals, but then claiming regenerative, which isn't as standardized, right, as regenerative organic. So I'm curious to get your opinion on this shift in the industry to regenerative, but not necessarily regenerative organic, and kind of the pros and cons of that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very good question. I don't know. Yes, so there are companies, and many people talking about regenerative, and multinational companies. Bayer itself, it's promoting regenerative, and it's not enough. I mean, when you don't combine regenerative and organic, is not a good regenerative approach. But because they want still to use the synthetic chemicals, it's easy. It might work, I mean, in terms of yields and production, but it's not good for the soil. So what I say, we got conventional, very bad. Regenerative, there is the risk that is becoming a word that is going to be manipulated, has been manipulated actually, because it looks like very good, but at the end, you might do the crop rotations, you might do the cover cropping, but you're still using pesticides and herbicides. So I don't think that the solution, but I see lots of people using the regenerative again for business. It's the same that's happening in Italy now. There are people wanting to, because now regenerative is becoming more and more popular, so they want to propose guidelines, like frame this kind of agriculture legally, But looking at the people around the table, I can see confusion, and I can see the tendency to use only regenerative and not organic. Yeah, so there is this issue that regenerative is going to be used not in the right way. It might be a first step towards regenerative organic, but we need to make sure that we don't just stop at the regenerative level, because it's from an ecosystem, soil ecosystem point of view, it's not good. But we still need to do the regenerative organic in a good way. We need to convince farmers that it's a good way to go, and to do that we need to create also markets for them, because farmers will do it, but if there is a market for the products, otherwise it's difficult. So that's why we are trying to put together all the food retailers now, beyond what we do for cosmetics, the Davines Group. We're trying to create round tables where we have the food retailers, the good farmers, the certification bodies like ROA, to see how, if whether we can find a solution, or give them more opportunities, because as a cosmetics company ourselves, we can't provide a big market enough. But if many cosmetics companies and textile companies can come together, and some agri-food, and we create a platform where these farmers can actually sell these products, it could work. It has been working in places around the world, so it could work more. Maybe not becoming mainstream, maybe not now, maybe in the future, but I think we don't have a choice anyway.
Got a question from Kate.
Hi, thank you so much. This was really fascinating. And I think my question is really like building off of that last answer a little bit. Just like with this faith in kind of conventional farming to produce yields, and our current system that like requires yields, so like that prioritizes yield over everything else, it seems like a lot of farmers can't afford to even have like one season or 1 year where that yield might decrease. And so it seems like that would be pretty high in prioritizing like what kind of changes are they willing to make. And then just from my like super limited exposure, it seems like some farmers too are kind of resistant to do something like ROC certification because of the like paperwork, or because of the like manpower that goes into it. And so like when you're discussing kind of these shifts in the market that make it more appealing for farmers to be switching to these regenerative practices, what do you think are the like main obstacles, or the main motive, like the main movements that need to happen to start like giving that shift some momentum? Like what helps create the markets that are necessary to give those farmers the stability to pursue these practices?
Right. These are very good questions. If we could answer them, we would have solved the problem. Okay, so yields, yes, if they remain the only parameter that we look at, is not good, because it's not about, okay, it's not about quantities, because in this way we produce lots of biomass, which might be rich in carbon, but maybe poor in nutrients, micronutrients that we need for our health. So that's why we need then to buy supplements and so on. So we got lots of stuff that we put onto the market of low quality, but it gives an income to farmers which follow, let's say, conventional practices. So they know if they keep following these conventional practices, they will have a niche in the market, and they will sell products. Maybe we need to do more education. Maybe we need to experiment more, but at the farm scale. What we need are investments, investments for farmers who want to try and go in this direction for at least for the first few years, to help them to do that. So this is one barrier, is the lack of funding and the lack of reduced market for high quality food products. There is an increasing number of people now, consumers. We are more aware of health issues. So there is an increasing market. But the added value that these farmers could have is still not large enough for them to be convinced to go in that direction. Actually, there are organic farmers in Italy now going back to be conventional because they don't see the added value of what they produce. So there are the barriers. I mean, there is a food system in Italy, or everywhere, I guess, dominated by large supermarkets. So there is a logistics, there is a supply chain which is working and is working with large biomass of products. There is maybe not enough networking or possibilities for small, medium farmers which produce good quality food. But in that case, they should be selling the food in a radius of maybe 20, 30, 40 miles and producing good food for local people. So the barriers are different. The barriers are the farmers themselves, so the mindset, because they are used to do that. The father or the grandfather or the system tell them what to do, and they don't want to change mindset to do something different because it's risky. So that's the mindset, it's one issue. The lack of a proper market is another one. Lack of funding, because if you think about agriculture, there are lots of subsidies, and these subsidies, they go to conventional farmers using chemicals, which can then produce a lot of low quality, but even them are struggling. So agriculture is strange because it's not profitable. Without subsidies, I think 90% of farmers would be in loss. So it's complicated, but we need to pay attention more on quality. Maybe produce a bit less, but of better quality. Maybe giving opportunities to small and medium, creating a network of many farmers, not just few large farms. And actually, the number of few big farms is increasing in Europe, and the number of small, medium farms is decreasing. That's the situation. But you need investments from private companies, from governments. The EU it's pushing that direction, but maybe not in a way that bring on board the farmers, which are skeptical. So it's, as you say, it's complicated.
Dario, thank you so much. I feel like we could spend a lot more time talking to you. I have more questions, but really appreciate your time and staying late. It was a great presentation and so cool, the work that you're doing. It's really important. I mentioned this in the chat, but we're going to be announcing in the next week a course in Milan with one of the farmers that Dario mentioned that won this award last year, or in April in New York, Marta, and we'll be visiting EROC during that course, hopefully. So yeah, it'll be great to see you again next year. And yeah, if anybody here wants to join us or knows people that might want to go to Northern Italy for a course, it should be a pretty great week. All right, thank you, Dario. Really appreciate it.
Come to visit us in Parma.
Yeah, and there's some other reasons to go to Parma too that I'm sure people could find. So
well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, really great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Ciao. Bye bye.